Is what of a mama for everybody. Tourism brochures put a muzzle on my island suffering. Those scenic landscapes and rich culture are not a figment of one's imagination. Corruption stifles public welfare. Struggle has been ingrained in our black, gold, and green. Passports obstruct opportunities to cross holy waters that could heal. So when Mama said she was moving to England, it sounded as though she had won the lottery. I've never seen a going away party organized so quickly to celebrate Mama becoming a personal ATM overnight. It wasn't even 24 hours since Mama's feet touched new soil. Everyone began tugging to give her an earful. Opening remarks always began with, "Why? Things are done here. But get little money, no?" She tells them life over here is no praise dance, but they kiss their teeth. The frustration clings to her hair. She swallows her pride, wires the money with traces of her sweat, and picks up an extra shift. I can see everyone's wish list held beneath her eyes. She no longer posts on Facebook where everyone documents her prosperities, far too tired of blows rippling across the waters, catching the corners of her mouth each time she tries to justify herself. Mama receives no commissions for her services. Not once has pen touched paper to express gratitude. I am tired of Mama putting relatives on pedestals and diluting her needs with each transaction, but blood ties. Mama said if me eat, everybody have to eat. To be family is to stretch hands over oceans, to share blessings. It is to unfold tongue and say, I will love you through hardship, but sometimes I worry. I look at Mama's palms and I see the scars go unhealed as everyone continues to dig. I see the fair tucked in between her frown lines, uncertain of what withholding might mean. You see, where we are from, envy is the mother of murder that hounds migrants. Money turns blood sour. So to the migrants who still send remittances home, you are the true national heroes.
Hello Courtney, it's an absolute pleasure to be in London to talk to you about your poetry. I've been an admirer for many months now. Thank you.
Thank you, it's been such a pleasure joining you here. I'm really excited for this interview.
Okay, and if I may get to some questions for you. How did poetry begin for you? Can you remember the first time you felt like the urge to write?
So in undergrad, I was at the University of Birmingham, and I think it was like my second year or something like that. And I went to a poetry gig with a couple of friends of mine, and by then I didn't really know of spoken word or like anything like that, so this was the first time experiencing, and I think I saw Sophia Thacker perform, and she was the president of the Poetry Society at UOB at the time, and I was like, oh, this is quite cool, like, oh, I'd love to try this. I went home and I binge watched like everything under the sun that was on the YouTube channel of Button Poetry, and I was like, okay, how do I translate my own experiences, like how these individuals are doing it, and this is going to sound very cheesy, but I was like going through a rough time at that time, and I was living in like these dorm accommodations, and I had an ensuite, so I like went in the shower, steaming hot shower, and I just put my phone on record and I just started speaking, and it was like a freestyle type spoken word like poem at the time, and then I listened back to it and I was like, this isn't too bad, and then I was like, I'm gonna join the society, and then after that, I joined the society and started like learning actually more about poems, and then that's how it started from there, really.
Has there been much change from that point of starting to how you are now?
Yeah, for sure. I think I made the intentional decision to be a poet during COVID. So before COVID, I had only done like a few slams before then. So I did Uni Slam, I did Roundhouse Poetry Slam, BBC Fringe Slam, and while I did really well in those, I thought it would actually be cool to have my work published and on page. But also I was very self-conscious of the fact that I didn't know the craft very well. And I don't know, at that time I didn't really consider myself to be, it's like that same argument that, are you really a poet if you aren't published? So and I hate that argument, but I kind of bought into that, and then so I spent the whole of COVID like going to every single free poetry workshop I could. So like big up Spread the Word, who were running some amazing free workshops, and Apples and Snakes, and so I went to those. And then I also did like emerging writing programs like Obsidian Foundation Retreat. I did Roundhouse, I did BYP, and various other few. London Emerging Writing, London Library Emerging Writers Program, yeah. And I just like did all of those and tried to learn as much about the craft as possible. And then I set a goal for myself. I was like, okay, I want to at least try and get published once. And I think the first person that published me was Bad Betty in their Field Notes of Survival anthology. And after I got that, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool to have your work written, printed, and like you can actually have a physical copy. I kind of became a little bit addicted to getting published. And then I just started like working on a bunch of poems and then sending them out. And then I discovered the feel of competitions. And I'm a very competitive person because I'm naturally an athlete, so I transferred from being an athlete into like being a creative. So I was like, no, I definitely want to just start submitting to loads of competitions, and I did, and then it started working out for me. So it was just a conscious decision to be like, actually, I want to have my things written. And also it meant a great deal in the sense that, okay, I'm someone who I wasn't always writing, so like I used to go to these programs and everyone would be like, oh yeah, I started writing when I was like 2 or 4 or whatever, or I have this master's in creative writing, and that was just not the case for me. I really did not like reading or writing because like my dyslexia made me feel very inferior, so I tried to stay away from that and only like go into sports and stuff like that. So I just felt the need that, you know, I'm going to show that other people who are dyslexic, like it can be done, and I'm sure there are many more like amazing poets who have dyslexia who are kicking ass right now. But yeah, that's a big reason why I wanted to make sure that my work was in print.
I think I saw you perform at Inu Ellen's a rap party at the London Library. Fantastic night.
Oh, thank you. No, that was a brilliant night. Yeah, all the poets that night were so amazing. Yeah. This is Community Breeds Miracle. CCTV catches a 9-year-old walking hand in hand with a 32-year-old man clenching a knife. Courtyard roosters send for 500 mesh marinas, jean shorts and flip-flops. They comb through bushes with cutlasses. Funeral parlor await for your boy. Prayerful women circle her mother like helicopters. Her mother's face stiffens as regret injects it. How what is Father God? Me just run got shop for buy the lick of flour and corned beef. Her father's eyes are red and tearful, his mouth wide and air splitting. If you even rape her, send her home still. The 9-year-old's belly hushes field crickets while she feeds mosquitoes for 3 nights. She shivers, leaves rustle, and she thinks it's her granny's sweetie wrappers. Tiny footprints lead to tarpaulin hut. Any longer, it would have been her unmarked grave. She emerges a muddy dolly. Reunion hugs stifle her traumatized squeal. Don't kill him. 32-year-old man tingles at tender touch of low-hanging leaves while he's on the run. Fire swallows his home. His girlfriend flees without panties and documents. Luck scratches palms. The community marches to the nearest shop for buy cash pot tickets. May I buy 3 dead, 16 young girl, and 27 big fire. The 32-year-old man urges, interrupts clinking red stripe bottles. He snatches a 13-year-old girl feeding her father's pigs. He drags her into a vegetated area and bashes her head with a stone as if opening a coconut. Weary feet and hoarse voices hunt again. The 13-year-old girl waits for rescue and winces as shrubs pinch her hair like her mother's braiding technique. Her uncle finds her in a pit and carries her like a laundry basket. Her fingers hold a white sheet around her. The 32-year-old man escapes in nearby bushes. Community says, "We glad we get the girls them, but I him we did want."
I can feel a sense of distinct spiritually fulfilled state whenever I've heard you speak. Faith is palpably important to you, and I was wondering if you would like to say something about the importance of faith in your writing, please.
Yeah. I feel like, faith is such a big part of my life. I don't think I would be a poet if God didn't give me the ability to write poems. And so it's not necessarily deliberate, like, okay, I'm going to include God in this poem. It's such a big part of my life, it naturally flows in. And I feel like when I write poems, also, I try to make them, not even try to make them, I think each poem that I write is essentially a testimony. So I'm talking about the experiences that I've had or others have had, and it shows the direct hand of God on their life, whether even if it's a bad thing, how God turns it around for them to still be here, and to be a walking testimony of I can go through some serious stuff in life, but I'm still able to walk with my head held high, so to speak. So yeah, I like including how good God's been to me and to others. Yeah.
I love the storytelling aspect of your poetry, at which you really are lyrically superb. I'd love to know the processes involved in making you decide what to write about.
I think when I first started poetry, I felt like I was writing things that I should write about or that would be popular or do well. And I also think that when I first started, shame itself had my pen in a bound, like was holding it for dear life, so I wouldn't be as vulnerable on the page. And then as I have a mentor called Tolu Agbalusi, and we'd have mentoring sessions, and she'd ask me certain questions, and it almost felt like I was in a therapy session. But like after each session, I felt the need to peel away the layers and be more direct in my poems, and not allow shame to necessarily win. So I tried to make the conscious decision to be as vulnerable as possible on the page, but without doing harm to myself. So yeah. What was the question again? Sorry.
The question was the storytelling aspect of the poetry, and what makes you decide what to write about.
Okay. And also in terms of deciding what to write about, I often write a lot about the realities of Jamaica. So I feel Jamaica's an amazing country, and there's these stereotypical notions of what Jamaica is like, but I think at the moment I've been trying to write the actual realities of what's going on in our country. So I'm very drawn to writing poems of stories that I've read from our National Gleaner or various newspapers that we have in Jamaica, and just telling those stories in an authentic way, and giving voice to those who don't necessarily have a platform to divulge what's actually going on in the country. So yeah. I think what scared me at the start about writing Jamaica is, yes, I don't want to necessarily portray Jamaica to be this big bad place, because obviously that's not all to the country. But I also want to be honest in what's actually going on there, and if that can allow people to, holding accountable or politicians accountable is important to me. Holding family structures in Jamaica accountable for producing, like, I don't know, individuals who commit such high levels of crime and so on accountable, that's important to me. And holding general citizens being silent on certain issues accountable is important to me. So I always feel the need to make sure that those stories are being told. Because I think when I lived in Jamaica, I lived in such a privileged, I lived a privileged life that didn't even necessarily pay too much attention to, like, the severities of what was actually going on in my country, because it was so, like, it wasn't that much spoken about where I lived. And you can get caught up in like a little cocoon of your own privilege, that you're not even taking note of what's going on across the entire island. So I think it's important for me now to like properly pay attention to what's going on and how it's affecting the people on a greater scale. So yeah.
So there's almost an element of political kind of or politicized poetry, or maybe reflection on the economic and political condition of a land.
Yeah, I definitely write a lot about the poverty that's taking place in Jamaica, and it's like relation to the high crime rates that are there, and like the implications of lack of action from our politicians. So yeah, I'd say I do that quite a lot in my writing. This is extradition of drug lord Dudus Coke, Barbican girl Dashwe Tivoli boy. Dudus, breathtaker of dirty youths preying on little girls' cell phones and chochos. He pretzels politicians' arms so fathers can teeth light to keep stoves on. His cash lines the brows of single mothers who send their children to your school with their A-stars, waves, and Clark shoes. Prime Minister Bruce Golding approves Dudus's extradition. Your principal's intercom interrupts lunchtime. Your group becomes a herd of whispers, shuffling to collect bags, ears cocked for loose lips on staff walkie-talkies. Everyone sprints to their drivers. Your boy shoves himself into a Tivoli Chichi bus that mounts sidewalks to get him home. Meanwhile, your Barbican Prado cruises to water polo training. At training, with every other stroke you glance at the plumes of smoke in the distance. Coming from Tivoli, police helicopters chopping your coach's commands. You have 3 missed calls from your boy. Usually you're the needy one. You listen to his voicemail when you get home. He says, Jano, me no know if me and my family them a go make it. If me dead and the police them say me shoot after the police, I lie them a tell. Meanwhile, in the name of President Dudus, Tivoli gunmen bust shot after shot, not even a spot check for granny-less verandas. Scrap vehicles and gas cylinders block cherry-stained streets. Your boy's eardrums grind like pimento. His little sister and brothers squeal stow in their kitchen cupboards. From his bedroom, he prays 3 of his brethrens plead the blood of Jesus as they sit in their own pooling, while rumors have it on the ground Dudus is a sewer rat wearing a stiff wig for disguise. The next day, Prime Minister calls for a state of emergency for Tivoli. You neither adjust nor die, but your boy vanishes for a while. You ramp next to his empty desk, ask about his whereabouts, but not enough. In Tivoli community, mothers are graduating from sniffing foreheads, green armpits, to heaving at compost flesh. Top lips, marrying snotty nose tips, single beds, open caskets.
are your poetry inspirations, Courtney?
I think Vivy Francis and Patricia Smith definitely taught me how to be vulnerable and raw on the page. Like, I read their collections and it's just like this attitude of, I don't care what you think about my experiences, I'm going to tell my experiences anyway because they need to be heard. And I don't care if that it's hard for you to receive it. You're going to receive it anyway, and I love that nature of their writing. I love Dennis Smith's delicacy, but also humor when writing about darker topics. I think it's such a interesting way to divulge into trauma, but without like romanticizing trauma, but also making it digestible so that you can see the individual who trauma has been inflicted on. I love Sophia Robinson. I love Natalie Shapiro. I love Kai Miller. Oh my gosh, like these following like Caribbean poets. I always try to read them when I'm missing home. So Kai Miller, Safia Sinclair, Malika Booker, Roger Robinson, Raymond Antrobus, all those different poets I read when I just want a taste of home. So yeah.
Some wonderful names there.
Yeah. This is Babylon want turn us in a Rasta mouse. Step in a one dance full of meds and the MC ball out. Ja! Rastafari, praise to the Most High Selassie. Before him, a sea of tweed caps clutch locks, button-down linen shirts flaunt chest hairs and gold chains. This cramped garage, sanctuary for slow sways, prayerful eyes and ganja. Okra tongues provoke bossy boy's peace. He backs out a cutlass like a handkerchief. MC send a war to it ting, just love and unity, and the airy vibes carry on. Blonde neighbor summons her pack. Boss Jesus off of the cross like said the lions them approach through the sound system. Babylon's batons bash doors. Their speaky spooky accents say turn off this racket. Rust them disperse like mad ants. Some faces get catch on the Babylon's boots. Speaky spooky accents say go back to your country. If flattened bodies on concrete could have make a boat, Babylon spit would have sent us sailing home long time.
Congratulations again on your Eric Gregory Award 2022, and you seem to be one of the hardest working kind of early career poets I know of, really. And I wondered if you'd like to tell us a little bit about some of the projects that you're involved in presently.
At the moment, I'm working on my debut book with some amazing poets. I'm working with Rachel Long, Tolu Agbelusi, Cecilia Knapp and Caroline Berg. They're mentoring me at the moment. So yeah, just chipping away at that and making sure it's a project that I'm proud to put out in the world and that best represents me and my country and like my own experiences. I'm also working on a cool commission with Ink, Sweat and Tears and Spread the Word. It's basically a anthology documenting Lloyd's Insurance relationship to the slave trade. So I'm really excited about working on that. I think it's very necessary to tell these experiences and stories. So I've been chipping away at that. I'm working with Museum of London at the moment with their rebranding, which has been extremely fun. I'm also doing an exhibition with BBC One Extra and Barbican called Too Much Source, and that's with presenter Swazi. It's an amazing initiative like celebrating black creatives, black people in finance, religion, and just off across different industries, and it's just celebrating the importance of rest in all different fields. And I don't know, when I was doing that I thought really interesting because I don't really know how to rest. So yeah, I think this year has definitely been a lesson on that. I think I definitely was working in a cycle of just working, burnout, working, burnout. And I think now I've learned like it's important and vital to take that space and that time to rest, because it feeds your craft even better than when you're trying to work while during experiencing a burnout. So yeah.
It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, Courtney, and thank you.
No worries. Thanks for having me.